What's going on, guys? Patriot Prime here once again with another episode of the SITREP. And my guest tonight is Dan from eBEFOREi Transformer Reviews. Dan, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. These look like they've been a ton of fun, and I'm glad to be here.
Oh, they are. You're going to be part of a select few now, and part of a large collective that this has grown into. And, of course, this is all the fault of Matt Baldwin, Hail Hasbro Reviews. He got me on an interview show one day, and I thought, hey, I can do that, and here we are.
Yeah, we can actually do the same thing. We have cameras.
Exactly.
That was YouTube's biggest mistake. We'll give it to everybody.
Yeah, the world. Yeah, you got to be careful. My little one's always on YouTube, and every now and then he clicks the wrong thing.
Yes,
All right,
my son actually always says, Dad, you walked in at the wrong time because it auto plays. I was watching Barney and stuff. Don't worry about that Deadpool red band trailer I was watching.
My son really likes Alice Cooper now, so he's been watching some interesting Alice Cooper videos. So I'm bringing him
Congratulations.
up. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
I've tried so hard. His favorite song is the man behind the mask from Friday the 13th, Part 6.
You are doing it right, brother.
Thank you, sir. Hoo-ah! All right, well, real quick for all of our viewers. All my viewers know how the SITREP is, but this is for Dan's. I have a series of 10 questions that I'm going to ask Dan. 5 questions regarding Transformers and 5 questions regarding him as a YouTuber. So, Dan, if you are ready to rock and roll, we will begin this.
Let's do this.
All right. Question number 1. What is the appeal of Transformers for you?
Well, I'm a big man child is really what that boils down to. So I'm all right, I'll age myself here. So in 1984, I was 10 years old. And I was playing, I was playing with toys like everybody else. I had Star Wars was my big thing, I think, back then. But, I always thought robots were cool, right? Who didn't? But the moment that I saw on my television a truck turn into a robot and a robot turn into a truck and vice versa, that just really got my imagination going. And I went through this die-hard love affair of Transformers. I left the fandom for years and years, and when my son was born, it sparked something like, oh, maybe I could get him into the toys that I liked as a kid, and I completely fell in love with the whole thing all over again. But that's really where it started for me, is a 10-year-old imagination and robots that could turn into things.
And isn't it amazing that here we are 35 years later, still with the same toys we had as a kid? Granted, they're much better now, but it's still the same thing.
It's unbelievable. I wish I still had a lot of my old original toys. My son took care of a lot of those, by the way. They are in pieces all around the house.
I have trained Dylan since the day he could walk. When you come into this office, you look with your eyes and not your hands. I'm going to put the link to that video right here. It's so funny. He's 2 years old. He's trying to name the figures, and to this day, he will not mess with anything unless he asks first.
I tell you what, you're raising him right. You got to put the gloves on and do not touch for fear of losing.
Of course, what's bad when you're a toy collector father, like Dylan's into Imaginext. And Imaginext comes with all these pieces and parts. So here I am all paranoid. Well, let Daddy take all these pieces and parts, and I'm going to Ziploc bag these up. You can play with them when you're 10.
You're right. Exactly.
All right. Question number 2. Aside from G1, which is always the number 1 answer, what is your favorite Transformers fiction?
Wow. So, when I got back into it, I mentioned that I'd left it for many years, and that is true. I was gone for a long time. About the time that the Bay movies started to come out is when I started getting pulled back in. I want to say, for me, it would either be Transformers Animated or really even Transformers Prime, because when that was airing on television, both of my kids were real small. And I'll tell you what, pulling at the heartstrings, when you can spend weekend mornings with your kids watching something that I grew up loving, was really just unbelievable. And to hear Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime,
yes.
And that iconic boom voice brought me right back into that mix. So, maybe not everybody's answer, but I'd say maybe a tie for me between between Prime and animated, which I just thought was great.
I need to watch that again. I have an app on my PlayStation that has the entire seasons. I kind of skipped around. I know pretty much like all the Transformer cartoons, when you first start them, they're very kiddified until they go along and they realize who's watching it. It's like the kids aren't paying attention. It's their 30-year-old dads. So I need to rewatch those. I remember specifically in animated, I think it was the end of the first season when Megatron came back, and how violent that show was. I remember Blitzwing coming down, freezing Ratchet's hand and just snapping it off, and you got like robot bones sticking out. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is pretty cool. And Megatron was so awesome in that show. I have one animated figure, and it's Megatron, his big leader helicopter mode. I did like that one.
And I only have a few of the animated figures myself. And I think I got back into Prime first, or got into Prime first, and then I went back and discovered animated. And that was part of that whole period where I fell back in love with the franchise as a whole. And so that just one of those things for me, more than a collector, just as a fan of Transformers.
Did you ever do any of the comics? I remember Dreamwave was coming out in 2004, or no, that was even earlier, 2001. Because I remember after 9/11 happened, I was on a guard duty post at an armory, and I picked up Wizard magazine, I think was the name of the magazine with the comics, and there was a big spread on the return of the Transformers. So I remember that because in 2004, when I was in Iraq, I was ordering the graphic novels from Dreamwave, the collectives, or the collected editions, and have them sent over to me. So that really re-sparked my interest in G1.
That sounds cool. I never got into the comics myself. I was just never a comic guy. And so for me, it was all about the toys and TV. And still to this day, I've never really been a big comic person.
Well, if you've seen any of my reviews, you know that I'm a big Marvel G1 fan. That was my G1, because out in the boonies where I live, we didn't get cable TV. The only chance I got to watch the Transformers was if I visited my grandparents in town, or we went to the VHS. We went to VHS. Really dating ourselves now. Not only did I rent the VHS tape, I had to rent the player.
Right. Rent the player, and then the whole beta VHS fight. We can't even get into that.
Oh, and you get so mad you see something on beta and you couldn't find it on VHS.
That's right.
All right. See, I told you we go off the rails easy on this.
Oh, for sure.
Question number 4. Oh, we're on number 3. Shoot, we haven't gotten any far at all.
Yeah, it's going to be a long night, kids.
I dig it. Question number 3. Do you have a favorite figure or grail? This is the one toy you will never let go of.
So this is, again, a lot of with Transformers, I pull into things that happened in my life during the time. So it's real nostalgic for me versus, is it really that great of a figure? But the one thing for me, I went through, and let's get it all out here. So I got a divorce years ago, and one of the first things I did when I moved into my single house all over again was I said, you know what? There's nothing stopping me from getting MP10. I'm just going to do it. And so I got my Optimus Prime. He's sitting on my desk right now. And I know there are there's a million versions of MP-like Primes, and a brand new official Takara MP Prime coming out. But this guy right here, man, he's a little dusty right now because of the move. But this guy really is one of those figures. It was more about what it represented. It was about me being in a place where I was happy. And, I still have my kids. I still have this collection that's growing, and it's meaningful for me, so that one's never going anywhere.
Nice. That's me in MP01. I mean, you can't see him right now. He's over there holding that American flag. He's been my icon, my mascot for this whole channel. My wife bought him for me while I was in Iraq. So he's one of the ones, he's just not going anywhere just because of that. Of course, that's the first Masterpiece figure. I think he was the 2004 20th anniversary. I think she got it.
Can you believe how fast this time is flying too?
No kidding.
It seems like that figure came out 2 years ago.
And now it's just Masterpiece everything. I have 2.
Right.
I have 2.
Right.
Okay. Now.
Yeah, I've got my collection continues to grow. Although I'll tell you, I know we're getting off the rails a little bit more here too.
That's fine. That's fine.
with masterpiece figures, like I started going down that rabbit hole, and it's an expensive hobby. But I tell you, as the just general retail figures have gotten better and better, I've found that myself as a collector is kind of steering away from that. There was a period where anything MP, I wanted to zap it up. And now I'm kind of going, oh, what's at my local Target? I might pick that up instead.
See, at least
Save
you
some
have
money.
a Target. I have one Walmart, and then
Oh,
30 minutes
yeah.
away is another Walmart. 30 minutes in the other direction is another Walmart. My closest Target's 2 hours away. I'm a big Amazon guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, let them bring it to you.
Exactly. You just got to wait for those scalper prices to go down. Curse
It's
them.
ridiculous. Yeah.
All right, speaking of scalper prices, what figure is your white whale, your most wanted toy?
So for me, it's going to go back to some G1 stuff because it's not about, what is this big expensive thing that I don't have that I want in my collection, but it's some of the things that I missed out on as a kid that I always wanted. And, time just flies by fast and you miss out on things. So, like a G1 Trailbreaker I never had. I had Red Alert, but I didn't have Sideswipe. So little things like that if they end up being reissued at a reasonable price, that will melt my heart a little bit and bring those into my collection. So nothing big, nothing fancy, just some of the older figures that I missed out on as a kid that would bring me some joy now.
Nice. When I first started collecting G1 again, the latter years is what I went after first. Because growing up, I had some of the early. I had 84, 85, 86, some of 86. I was just getting out of them then. But, like the Headmasters, I never had any of these as a kid. So, man, these were the first ones I tracked down. And
yeah, it was same boat. I never had any of those either.
And they're awesome. I got to get these guys reviewed. And that's part of the well, we'll get into this later, too. See, that train's just derailing constantly. Okay,
Yep.
Question number 5. This is our last Transformer question. What is your favorite Transformer character? Not toy, character. Any fiction, any media.
So who doesn't like a good, just bad guy that's a little bit shady, that's a little bit of a backstabber? Starscream for me. Maybe that's a common answer, but
I think you're the first Starscream answer.
Really? When I heard his nasally voice on the cartoon when it first came out, it hooked me. It's like, come on, this guy's not going to end up, but maybe he will, and it's been an ongoing just fascination with the character. And it's funny how he's been portrayed, different voices, different looks throughout the years, but that core is still there, and I love that. So yeah, I'd say Starscream for me all the way.
And I remember how cool it was as a kid when you watched Transformers and there's Starscream, and then G.I. Joe came on. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that sounds similar. Can't be the same character.
The Starscream version I hated the most, other than the Bayverse version, was when Transformers Prime came out and they first introduced Starscream. I'm like, man, he looks horrible, but boy, that character grew on you so much. And another series I need to rewatch. It's been a long time. I've got them all on Blu-ray.
Also sitting on my desk is one of my all-time, favorite iterations of this character. He's just such a smarmy guy, and there's something to be respected. Somehow he survives, even if he turns into a ghost because he's killed. It's spoilers.
I was really shocked when he appeared in Beast Wars.
Yeah. That was awesome.
That's the one character I only have. I have classic Starscream, the Popeye Arm Starscream from Power of the Primes, and one G1 and the G1 Walmart reissue, and that's it.
Yeah.
I had a lot more, but there was a great Transformers Purge of 2011 where I got rid of a bunch of stuff, but it came back. I used to have every line. I mean, when I got back from Iraq, I was doing Armada, Energon. I had every Predacon for Beast Wars. And then when I decided I just want to focus on G1, tone it down a little bit, of course, then you realize how expensive G1 is.
Right.
I've got every Generation 1 American release Decepticons. I'm still working on the Autobots.
Wow, congratulations. That's impressive.
snagged my last one. I think it was early fall. It was a MicroMaster set that I realized I didn't have. And
Right.
found it on a Facebook group of all places. All right.
I can't think about all the money spent over the years on this
I don't
stuff.
want to. And what's
No,
bad is
no.
you
We'll
think about-
change the subject.
You think about the money you spent, and all it's doing is sitting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
Hey, you got to dust it every so
get
often,
my
but
canned air
yeah,
out and give them a shot.
the money we put in plastic and canned air is ridiculous.
Oh, especially see, I don't have any of those nice Detolf shelves. Mine's all out there.
Oh, but boy, do you have quite the collection and display. They look great. You know, it's
Thank
all
you.
about how does it look. When you walk into that room, you feel that pull. You have to. When I walk
gotta
into
give
this
my
room, I
wife
see a
prop.
couple
My
of-
wife designed this.
Yeah, you got to keep her there. Hang on to that one.
All right, well, that is it for the Transformers questions. Now we're going to get to know you as a YouTuber. And you've been doing this for quite a while, haven't you?
I have, and I've actually slowed things down a bit recently. But you know, like I always say when I do reviews, is I'm going to be back. Sometimes life gets in the way, and my problem is I have too many hobbies, just way too many hobbies. But I do have a passion for showing toys on YouTube. I love it. And so I'm always going to come back. And at some point soon, I do plan on picking the channel back up and just going at it full steam again.
Well, that pretty much leads right in. You did answer question number 6, is what possessed you, a grown man, to do toy reviews on YouTube?
You know, I talked about earlier how when my son was born, and maybe we talked about some of this before the show started too, but when my son was born, it brought that thing back in me that said, you know, well, hey, maybe I could get him a Transformer. You know, I had all these toys as a kid. I loved them. I played with them. And my parents would look at me like, how do you do that so fast? And I'm like, well, it's just a turn of the waist and this. And then, you know, it was only 5 or 6 steps and you had a robot. So I thought that's where they still were, right? And so when the Bait movies came out, and I'm walking through Target with my son, who at that point was a little baby, but I convinced myself that, hey, you know what? I'm going to get him a Transformer for me. So we're going through, and I find a Bumblebee or something. And I think it was one of the Bumblebees. But I picked this toy up, and I was so freaking excited just to show him how you could make a robot into a car and vice versa. And I rip it out of the box, and I get the instructions, and I remember that the instructions back in my day were, 3 or 4 little turns of a page. And then I'm unraveling, and this thing is huge, and I'm like, what in the heck is going on here? So I start to transform it, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm old now. I can't figure this out. Like, I could not put Bumblebee into a car or a car into Bumblebee. So I didn't know what to do. I could not do it. And so I went to YouTube and I started typing things in like Bumblebee, Transformers, put in the year. And I found a video reviewer, and I think it was Pia's reviews that I found first. But I found this guy, at that time, grainy footage, but it was hands in front of a camera going through the motions. And I did it, and I figured out how to do it. So that repeated a handful of times, and then just the light bulb goes off like it does, I think, with most reviewers, is, you know what? I have a passion for toys. I'm getting back into Transformers. I need a really good excuse at home to buy these things as an adult. I'll be a YouTube reviewer. So if anybody questions, why does this grown man have toys? Well, but I do it for YouTube. And that was a thing for a while, and I just fell in love with it. I absolutely loved showing off figures.
And what's funny, you don't get those odd looks. I mean, I just got my Patriot Prime gear, so I was wearing it around a flea market the other days. People are looking at me, what's that? Well, I do toy reviews of vintage Transformers on YouTube. Oh, you get some people give you a weird look, but then others are very interested, and you're surprised. You don't have to hide your nerd hobby anymore.
Right. So thank you to some of the early people out there, like the Pias of the world and Emgos and those guys that drew me in from the beginning.
Good old Collector 75. He was my go-to. He was always
I remember.
And he's like any G1, he had it. If I was interested in buying it, let's see what Graham has to say. And boy, the day he subscribed to my channel, I was just like, oh. It was like meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
All right, where are we at now? Question number 7. What keeps inspiring you to get in front of the camera? I know you said you took a little bit of a break, but man, when I first discovered you, I loved your videos. Man, you were you were right there. I was really entertaining, and of course, I jumped right on your Facebook page too.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's just like what's been going on recently. I've been with the same company. I'm in IT, and I've been working there for 27 years now, so for a real long time. I'm a musician. I play bass. I am a ghost hunter, and I founded or co-founded a ghost hunting team here in Atlanta that's part of Tap's family, and we're busy doing cases with that. Yeah, we'll get into a whole other conversation about that someday. So I just have a lot going on, and when that starts to happen, I get pulled away a little bit, but I still collect. When I'm in the store or I'm on Amazon or Hasbro Pulse or whatever, I'll see something and I gotta have it. It's gotta be mine. And so when I bring these things in and they sit here, and I just have this desire to want to show it off, not to brag, but just to share my passion for toys, because I do have a passion for toys. And so being able to share that with whoever, whether it's one viewer, 100, 1,000, 10,000, it doesn't matter. It's just sharing something that I enjoy, and hopefully that brings a little bit of joy to somebody else.
And the community helps too. When you're getting those comments on those videos, man, you just got to keep going. I mean, you develop your own little following, which leads into a question later on. So get back on track.
Yeah.
All right, my friend, there are thousands of toy reviewers on YouTube. Try this again. There are thousands of toy reviewers on YouTube. What makes you different than the rest?
I have hands that go in front of the camera. I don't know. We're all doing the same thing. I don't know what makes me any different other than just, again, it's a passion for toys. What you generally won't see from my channel is me being overly critical on things unless it's really freaking bad. If it's really bad, then yeah, you're going to hear about it from me. But in most cases, oops, hang on a second. I got a little bit of a technical glitch. In most cases for me, it's not that I'm trying, like sometimes you'll watch a reviewer, and I won't name any names, but you'll watch a reviewer and you're almost convinced they're getting a kickback from somebody. They're so positive on toys. And maybe that's exactly what's happening. But in my case, I just enjoy them for what they are. I'm not going to be overly critical on a piece of plastic that I know is meant for kids. And yes, it's an adult hobby too, but for me to bash on a toy, it's got to be laughably bad. And I've done it. But for the most part, if you come to my channel, it's not going to be me picking things apart. It's, hey, you know what? I've got this thing. It brought me joy. Let me show you why. And that's really what my channel's all about.
And I think that's what a lot of people look for anymore. Like you said, you can tell the ones that they're getting the toys. They're not like us. You and I have to go out hunting or waiting on Amazon for that price to drop.
Right.
And when you finally get this toy, there's a new type of appreciation that you have than if somebody just gave it to you. Now, granted, I've had some people give me some very generous gifts on my channel that have blown me away, but you know what I mean. I mean, if I'm going out and I'm going to spend, X amount of dollars on this, am I going to tell you, was it worth it or not? I think you've seen, I always do that at the end of my videos. Do I recommend this? But, I try to be as honest as possible. And like you, I think I've only really had 2 crap figures. I mean, after I bought them, I was like, I bought one guy on clearance and I still paid too much for him.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because the opposite of that is out there as well. Like there are reviewers who are critical every single time because that's their gimmick, and people go to that channel because, I want to see this guy pick apart what's next. And that's cool. Like I'm not knocking that, but that's definitely not what my channel's about.
Nice. Okay, well, here we go back to our social community. Question number 9 is, what is your thoughts on the Transformers social community? YouTube, Facebook, and do you have any special shout-outs?
Oh, gosh. So my thoughts on the community as a whole is that it's not as You know, to me, it got a little bit toxic when the Bay movies were at their peak, because there was a very hard divide of, this isn't my Transformers. You know, I've heard that numerous
You've
times.
ruined my childhood.
Ruined my childhood, and you know, Optimus Prime doesn't look like that, and you know, we've all heard it. And for me, I always gave everything a fair shot. Yeah, there were some, and this is just my personal opinion, I'm not right or wrong, but my opinion on some of those movies is, yeah, you know, some of them were kind of crappy, but the imagination and thought put into the designs of these characters, to me, were incredible. And so to take some of the on-screen images that we had and turn it into something that you can put in your hand and actually play around with, I stopped judging. I didn't care if it was Bay. I didn't care if it was Barney. I didn't care if it was Barbie. I don't care. It was something that, again, brought me joy. It was an on-screen, awe-inspiring character that I could now put in the palm of my hand. And so I gave all of those things a fair shot, and, you know, certainly defend the toys that I enjoy and speak up when I don't. The thing I learned a long time ago, though, is that there's no right or wrong answer in this community. You know, if somebody wants to jump on a message board and say that a toy's no good, that's cool, because to them it might not be. And I'm not judging that at all. And you know, I've got a Facebook group that we'll talk about later, but you're never going to see me get onto somebody because they express their opinion. You know, nobody has to like what I like, and that's cool. And the community, after some of that little bit of toxic thing that was going on, seems to have calmed down quite a bit. I know what groups to stay in and what groups to stay out of, but for the most part, it's a great community right now.
Oh,
and I'm real happy with the quality of people that are in it.
Thank God we're not Star Wars fans.
Oh, man. That's a topic for a different day, for sure.
I mean, I love my Star Wars, but you don't mention it. You know, it's like, are you old Star Wars or new Star Wars?
Yeah. But as, you know, as far as, oh man, we need to do another podcast for sure, because there's a whole lot to say about that. You know, as far as, you know, shout outs and people, you know, that have been around. You know, I run a real small little private group called eBEFOREi's Transformers and More. And I'll have people that share things. You know, you talk about kind of a star moment for you when you had somebody that you enjoyed subscribe to your channel. Well, when Ben Yee of Ben's Transformers, Ben's World of Transformers, joined my group, I was like, wow, like, you're in the wrong place, dude. Like, seriously, you're in the wrong place completely. But he puts stuff out there all the time, and he's been a big supporter. You've been around on my channel for a long time, and I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you.
People like Jackal, one of the original guys that was on there, just a host of names. Optorotomus is a guy that I've known for a long time, and just a whole bunch of people out there. I don't think I've had really any bad experiences with people in the community personally. I feel fortunate that way. So anyway.
Excellent.
I should have more names, but
no, don't worry about it. There's a lot out there. I'm always forgetting some, but yeah, this community has blown me away. I mean, like I said before, people just out of the kindness of their heart, they've sent me gifts. They sent my son gifts. Of course, I had a message today, said, I want to send your boy something else because I just love watching his video reactions when he gets something.
Yeah, turning him into a YouTube star. Yeah.
I've got a great idea for an upcoming challenge that I'm going to integrate him into. So look for that in the next couple weeks.
Awesome. I'm ready.
All right. Our last question, sir. Do you have any channel goals for yourself, and where can our viewers find you? This is your time to plug yourself.
Plug away. So, you know, goals for the channel is really just to get momentum back going again. You know, what happens in the Transformers YouTube community is that you can get momentum and things are going pretty well, and then the overall popularity of the franchise might die off a little bit, not to us hardcores, but to the general population. If there's not movies making $1 billion, it does tend to go down a bit. And so you're really just you're sharing your passion with the hardcores, and those numbers are smaller. For me, when momentum starts to stop, I get people that drop off, and the subscriber count doesn't change that much, but it doesn't go up either. And so I think for me, a goal is just to kind of get things back rolling and start increasing that count once again and get my numbers to where they were at one time. But you know what? I don't live and die by that. If I've got one viewer that enjoyed something that I did, I'm cool, I'm happy, and that's all I need. So certainly anything above that is a bonus. But as far as just, what I am looking forward to in the future, it's just getting the opportunity to share more figures that are quality figures that were coming in like crazy right now. The Siege line is nuts. It's absolutely crazy. And as long as Hasbro keeps trilogy. Oh man, as long as Hasbro keeps cranking out quality stuff like that, then I'll have plenty to talk about. Where people can find me.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
This is kind of where I was going to earlier. I brag and brag. I love my G1. G1's awesome. Siege and their G1 throwbacks is amazing. I mean, we were just talking about like Siege Prowl, how
right.
He doesn't look it, but when you transform in robot mode, I was like, my gosh, that's cartoon Prowl from the 80s. Yeah. But what I am starting to get sick of is every new line that comes out, they're always targeting the 84, 85, and 86 bots. Titans Return came out. Oh, you got some of the Headmasters and Target Masters. Okay, I want to see some Pretenders. I want to see some Power Masters. I want to see reimaginings of these guys. I love Pretenders.
Yeah, and another thing. And another thing, too, is they have to keep in mind that a big chunk of their community are hardcores. Every store I go into, there's older man babies like me that are going into these toy shelves, and they're like holding boxes, right? And so there are definitely an adult population that are buying these toys, but I think that to bring along new fans as well, when those 80s cartoons really don't mean a darn thing, that if they were to start creating brand new characters, just again, what was the original draw of the Transformers? It was this cool looking machine that turned into a robot, and so if they started doing something brand new, you don't have to fall back on 84, 85, 86, or even in the 2000s or all the different types of Transformers that there have been over the years. Show us something new. And I think that they might be surprised in who bites at something like that.
But they got to get the story behind it too, because think about it. You had the GoBots, you had the Transformers, and it was the Transformers that took off because of the writing, the voice acting. You know these characters. I mean, like I got this guy. He's a cool looking GoBot. What's his personality? What's his voice sound like? Optimus Prime. You're like, oh my gosh, you're just spouting off knowledge forever. I mean, that's got to count too, which, this always happens when I get on a bunch of live shows. We start talking about cartoons, but you just can't beat the cartoons we grew up with. And the reason being is these toy companies sponsored them. They had the money to do it. Now you got these quick, crappy animated shows, and you got turd toys selling at Walmart now. So.
Boy, you sure do. You got aisles of them, just aisles of them.
What was I
there has to be that combination of something that can grab at the magic of a kid's heart and also pull at the adult collector. There is a happy medium, and it's not overly kiddie animation. It's not overly bloody adult animation. It doesn't have to be animation at all, but it does require money. It does involve, corporate people making decisions in which they think they can profit from it, but bring back the iconic voices and the stories and something that's compelling, and they'll bring in an audience. But it's not going to happen in a day. It's going to take time, and it's just a matter of whether or not some of these companies are willing to put that time, maybe lose a little bit of money at first, with the idea that they bring something wholly new to the franchise.
Yeah. Will we have these guys for another 35 years, or will they go the way of G.I. Joe?
Yeah, interesting question. That's a great question. What happens when the people that lived in the 80s, 90s, and 2000 were born in these eras or alive then, when we move on, is the Bay-like movies going to instill this on new young people? I really don't know the answer to that. But I think there's always going to be kids who are wanting to use their imagination and things that inspire them to be creative, to use their brains, to take something that they can put in their hand and turn into a puzzle, and do things with, versus just getting on the game machine or just in the glasses, virtual reality, whatever they have 20 years from now. There's going to always be a child's imagination. It's just a matter of whether or not these companies can continue to inspire it like they did us.
Exactly. Great answer. All right. Well, you never got to plug yourself. I'll let you do that now.
No worries. They can find me at eBEFOREi Reviews if you just search that in YouTube. But the actual channel itself, it's youtube.com/eBEFOREiNet. And you just spell it all out. It's EBEFORE, eBefore, and with an I. And that name, people have asked me before what that means. I was just
getting ready to.
Yeah, and it's funny because in school, they always said, I before E except after C. Well, my last name is Bernstein, and so there is an E before I in Bernstein. And I was racking my brain, like I've got to come up with something for YouTube. E before I. So that's really how it came to be.
Oh,
but they can find me at. It is that. It's funny, they see it and they're like, what the heck? Is that Transformers? They'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm youtube.com/eBeforeINet. Facebook is facebook.com/eBeforeI, no net. And if you want to join my group, it's like they're having to pay me money, you click a join button. You just look up eBEFOREi Transformers and more, hit join, I'll add you in, and you're golden. You're in the group unless you start berating people or start doing, and I've only had to ban a single person from my group ever. And there was good reason for that. But other than that, it's just a place where people can come in and talk about toys. And it's not just Transformers. Whatever they want to talk about, they can talk about. If it's Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, I don't care. Anything that people have an interest in and you want to discuss it, come on board and
I have
say
got
whatever
to catch up on Game of Thrones. I haven't watched any of this season yet. I don't have HBO, so I have to get mine other ways. And
yes,
it's been horrible because all I've been seeing on the internet is how bad it is and how horrible it sucks. So maybe I'll just leave it alone and imagine what happens.
You know what? That may not be a bad idea. I have my own opinions of it as well. I didn't hate it completely, but yeah, we'll talk about that after you've seen it.
There's only 6 episodes this season, right?
I think 6. Yeah, I think so. 6 episodes.
Okay,
that's right.
I've got 3. I just usually wait till I get them all and hit them in one shot. Well,
right.
We are starting to get off the trail again. Dan, thank you very much for coming on with me tonight. And for everybody watching, I will link Dan's channel in the description of this video. And at the end, when you have Optimus Prime with that American flag waving in the background, I will link a couple of Dan's videos. So we'll get some folks your way that way.
Nice, and we'll promote you as well. Thank you. This has been fun. Thank you so much for doing this.
Excellent. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. This is Patriot Prime signing out. Hooah!